you can count on us. This is 7 News Good Morning Fort Sill.
Well, happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Good Morning Fort Sill.
Yeah, that's right. We've got a lot to get to today, including talking government shutdown and how it might affect the military. But first, let's check in with Ulysses, who's got our PT forecast for us this morning.
Yes, hey guys, and when it comes to the weather this morning, it's actually a bit milder out there. We've had some clouds roll in during the afternoon hours, going into the nighttime hours, so definitely 66 degrees, or 7 degrees warmer than we were this time yesterday at Fort Sill. And looking at that sunrise, that's 728. Looking at those temperatures, may fall off at just a few degrees more, maybe down to 64 by the time we get towards sunrise here around 7:30. And then we'll start warming things up gradually, but it definitely will kick, temperatures will warm up a little bit quicker later on this afternoon, especially once the sun begins to break through. For today, for yesterday, 85 degrees was the high temperature, 57 for the low. So pretty much a seasonable day across the board. Right now, looking at the view, our Comanche Nation Entertainment Tower came at Medicine Park. Really not much happening. Really tranquil out there. Can't rule out maybe a sprinkle or so, at least through the about 7, 8 a.m. at the latest. But for the most part, things are quiet. Looking at your current conditions, we're dealing with 60s. We're dealing with overall partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures in those mid to upper 60s, and as we go throughout today, we'll deal with decreasing clouds, temperatures warming up into the upper 80s.
Well, if anything on your to-do list involves Uncle Sam, you might want to cross it off today.
So parts of the federal government could turn off the lights around 11 o'clock Central Time tonight.
That's due to a funding impasse centered on the cost of health care. Amy Kiley reports on how a shutdown might affect you.
Millions and millions of lives will be upended.
The federal government could shut down tonight, and Americans could feel the impact. That's unless Congress reaches an agreement by midnight.
I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
Sticking points remain. Democrats want to undo recent Medicaid cuts and preserve certain Obamacare subsidies. They also want to make it harder for the president to cut funds Congress has approved.
This relates to the well-being and the health of the American people.
In a shutdown, non-essential federal employees face furloughs. For Americans, that might affect customer service, paperwork, national parks, food inspections, and more. The White House is even threatening to fire some workers.
The federal workforce is already shrinking rapidly, down by 97,000 jobs.
Social Security payments will continue, but the timing could be confusing. Today, an unrelated executive order is ending paper government checks. Meanwhile, a shutdown could cause travel delays.
Planes will take off, but it's going to be a massive strain on the system.
Some experts worry a government closure could hurt the economy. It also could delay the release of economic reports crucial to investors and the Federal Reserve.
This will be a momentous week for the U.S. economy and the financial markets.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
All right, so during a government shutdown, we know that active duty service members are required to work. However, there may be a delay in paychecks depending on the length of the shutdown. The good news is they will eventually receive back pay. We also know that military retiree pay and VA disability pay will continue because they are paid via different channels or funds.
That's right, Kyle. So let's talk about federal employees for a minute. So like think about your Department of the Army civilians, Department of the Air Force civilians, and other federal workforce. So due to the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act of 2019, all federal employees must be retroactively paid for the duration of the shutdown upon the conclusion. However, federal jobs are a little bit different. They're considered either accepted or not accepted when it comes to a shutdown. Accepted federal employees work without pay during the shutdown, and not accepted personnel are put on unpaid furlough. Who or what is accepted and not accepted varies by federal agency and location.
So the Department of War has publicly released a document called the Contingency Plan Guidance for Continuation of Operations in the Absences of Available Appropriations. That goes into detail of how activities are classified. That document can be found at media.defense.gov.
Now, Kyle, I actually was was reviewing that yesterday and today. It's just under 20 pages long. It does outline a lot of specifics with reference to the Department of War. We do want to point out a couple things that with reference to the shutdown. So the shutdown affects agencies that get funding through what's called appropriated funds. There are multiple agencies in the government that actually get funding by other means or through what's called non-appropriated funds. So specific to the military, a lot of morale, welfare, and recreation, so MWR programs are solely funded through non-appropriated funds will actually maintain operations. Additionally, we know that the AAFES, PX, and commissaries as well will remain open.
So AAFES operates thousands of locations from convenience stores and malls to food courts located on military installations around the world. One veteran who experienced multiple shutdowns during his time in service says AAFES remaining open can be a lifesaver for some soldiers and their families while they're furloughed.
Yeah, it does help out for a lot of soldiers that really have a lot of money and get paid months, we send the PX to just talk to them sometime, a place where they can go eat. You may eat at the Warrior restaurants. Go eat there. Some may want to go to the PX and have a bite to eat.
Experts say while AAFES remaining open during a shutdown will help in the short term, it won't make much of a difference if the shutdown lasts weeks or even months.
Well, Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield has filed an emergency motion in federal court seeking a temporary restraining order to block President Trump's deployment of National Guard troops in Portland. Those troops have been mobilized to protect the federal immigration building in the city. Rayfield's motion argues that local law enforcement has the situation under control and that adding federalized troops will only make things worse. For several months, a small group of demonstrators have camped in front of the ICE facility in southwest Portland, leading to occasional clashes with federal agents that are protecting the building. Some protesters have blocked federal vehicles and vandalized the building. There have been more than 24 arrests since June.
I'm confident that the resources of the Portland Police Bureau can manage incidents and actions that are occurring down there in South Waterfront.
When people cross the line, there's unlawful activity, people are being held accountable. This is not an insurrection. This does not require military troops in an American city.
Oregon's emergency motion claims the president lacks the authority to deploy the Oregon National Guard, which is typically reserved for disaster relief such as wildfires or flooding. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry is asking for federal support to address crime concerns. Governor Landry has requested the mobilization of up to 1,000 National Guard troops to be deployed to urban centers throughout the state. Governor Landry cited high rates of homicide, carjacking, and gang violence in cities like New Orleans and Baton Rouge, along with law enforcement shortages. The troops would supplement local police and secure critical infrastructure through fiscal year 2026. Well, looking at our Fort Sill news, Fort Sill is hosting its 29th annual Oktoberfest at 5 o'clock Friday evening at the Patriot Club. That's right. Now, when you think Oktoberfest, you typically think of beer, but on Fort Sill, there's plenty of fun for the whole family. MWR Special Events Coordinator Ethan Briner is excited about what they have in store this year.
It takes over not only the inside of the Patriot Club, it takes over our beer garden and our amphitheater. We bring the polka meisters from Tulsa. They come down, they play, they start jamming at 5 o'clock, they go till 10 o'clock. We do a keg tapping at 6, but it's family friendly. That's the one key thing I always want to remind people. If you want to have your kids, there's kids activities, family activities inside. If you want to go outside, you can go outside, hang out, enjoy the music, enjoy the food, just have a good time. It's completely free. The only thing you pay for is your beer, your drinks, your food.
All right, Kyle, you may need to bust out your lederhosen. So that event is free itself, but buffet tickets for food are $20. Kids' meals are $5. Steins, of course, for beer. $20 for plastic, $25 for glass. That includes your first drink. For more information and a pre-purchase meal or drink tickets, you can go to sill.armymwr.com. Well, Altus Air Force Base will be conducting a joint training exercise with Fort Sill later this week. So that training will take place this Friday. Altus leaders say you may notice vehicles and equipment that are not normally present on base. There will also be a temporary disruption of normal gate hours from 10 o'clock Friday morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, as well as more traffic than usual on U.S. Highway 62 from Lawton to Altus. Troops from multiple nations wrapped up a joint training exercise aimed at strengthening alliances in the Orient. Coming up, we'll take a look at the news from across the forces.
This 7 News broadcast is sponsored by Southwest Buick GMC.
This just in, the town of Velma is being evacuated.
Stay connected to the team you trust your way. Get breaking news and investigations here on the 7 News app.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Instant forecast with real-time alerts here on the First Alert 7 weather app. And stream live on your TV here or watch anytime on your schedule. Download all 3 for free. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are. Download all 3 for free. Here's your First Alert forecast with meteorologist Ulysses Garcia.
Welcome back, everyone. We're starting off with some clouds here this morning, but for the most part, though, remember, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. We're going to actually end up with sunshine by the time we make our way towards this afternoon. Our Jackson County Memorial Hospital Tower Cam analysis, really not much. Even though the winds here, you can see relatively light. You can see the windsock there. Not really that much movement. Temperatures currently, though, for the most part, into the 60s, even a few spots still at 70s, such as Vernon and Monday and Quanah, 69 Frederick, 69 Altus, 66 a little bit cooler here in Line, 63 degrees over towards Chickasha, and that's actually the cool spot, along with Anadarko, 64. High pressure for the most part in control, but there is a little shortwave that's pushing through, and that's bringing just a few sprinkles over parts of our viewing area. You can see, and don't be surprised if some of this is actually evaporating before it hits the ground. That's called Virga. So like I mentioned yesterday, we do have the chance for a couple sprinkles, but this will continue to push away off towards the east later on today. High pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere really just dominating. That's why our temperatures have also been above average. So still can't rule out a sprinkle, at least by around sunrise. And then notice how the clouds will really begin to break apart throughout the day. By this afternoon, lots of sunshine as we go throughout tonight. Mostly clear skies and more sunshine on the way going into your Wednesday. For your PT forecast, we'll be in the mid 60s already here throughout daybreak and then warming things up. We'll top out around 87 degrees this afternoon. Decreasing clouds for tonight will drop down to right around 60, mostly clear and milder. Southeast wind at 0 to 5.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has vowed to improve the Pentagon's overall process for interacting with Gold Star families during the first ever meeting with War Department's Gold Star Advisory Council.
So Gold Star family members are surviving relatives of U.S. service members who died in the line of duty. Hegseth says Gold Star families should be welcomed into the arms of a grateful nation rather than running into bureaucracy or being unable to get the answers that they need. Well, service members with Japan, the U.S. and Australia, participated in Exercise Orient Shield 2025. The field exercise focuses on converging U.S. Army multi-domain operations and the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force cross-domain operations through bilateral field training and live fire exercises that focus on a dynamic forward posture.
Now, in its 40th iteration, Orient Shield 2025 underscores the ironclad commitment by the 3 countries to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific. Well, still ahead, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held discussions at the White House about ending the war in Gaza. After the break, you'll hear from both leaders who say they're optimistic that an end to the conflict is near.
This just in, the town of Velma is being evacuated.
Stay connected to the team you trust your way. Get breaking news and investigations here on the 7 News app.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Instant forecast with real-time alerts here on the First Alert 7 weather app. And stream live on your TV here or watch anytime on your schedule. Download all 3 for free. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are. Download all 3 for free.
A Marine veteran is in custody after allegedly opening fire at a waterfront bar in North Carolina, killing 3 people and injuring multiple others.
So that shooting is reigniting talks about veteran mental health issues. Ariana Bertolotti has the latest details from the East Coast.
Air Force veteran Tony Vivaldi remembers when he tried to transition to civilian life after serving 8 years in Vietnam.
I was called the baby killer. So I had one person spit on me.
Knowing all too well the struggle of the transition, he started a nonprofit called Save a Vet Now, the nonprofit advocating for the attention of veteran mental health.
To start with, I would say we don't pay enough attention, and we should pay more attention.
Nigel Edge, the man charged in Saturday's deadly shooting in Southport, is a decorated combat veteran. District Attorney John David says Edge suffered a traumatic brain injury serving in Iraq and suffers from significant mental health issues. Vivaldi says making veterans aware of resources available to them is the disconnect the state faces with its mental health system.
There are those veterans who don't know what some of these services are. And then there are those who know what they are and don't want to. What we have to do is find a way to connect with these veterans and make sure they know that we're there for them.
Governor Josh Stein says making that connection must be a priority.
We're doing a systematic analysis of our mental health care system and what is needed in order to enhance it so that we have the resources to respond to people's needs.
Vivaldi says veterans also deal with the stigma of admitting they have a problem.
The stigma that our society places on mental health. They don't want to be seen as weak, so they turn inward and they follow the old military rule of suck it up and take care of yourself.
Never finding out where or how to ask for help.
Thanks, Ariana. Definitely impactful there as we continue to move forward. This is actually, quite frankly, you know, this is the last day of September, so National Suicide Awareness Month is ending, but the job doesn't stop in September. We need to continue to move forward with that. Well, in other news, in a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday, President Trump unveiled a 20-point proposal that he hopes will end the war in Gaza.
The president says his peace plan has the support of Israel and other Arab countries in the region. The plan calls for Hamas to release all remaining hostages within 48 hours of an agreement and sets out a post-war roadmap for Gaza. Netanyahu is on board, but it's not yet clear if the plan will be accepted by Hamas.
I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
If Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
Well, leaders at Fort Gordon say they've been given the green light to operate at severe levels of service when it comes to their fire department. So that means 99 firefighters on duty serving nearly 40,000 people.
So according to Fort Gordon's fire chief, Army requirements state that each shift should have 11 to 14 firefighters on duty. The post population calls for nearly 55 firefighters, but they were only authorized to have 48 people until a recent hiring freeze. 9 more positions were axed from the department, leaving them with fewer than 40 firefighters. While the memo doesn't include those numbers, it accepts the risks associated with them, calling them acceptable and negligible. Officials with the Government Accountability Office say that the Department of War has violated its own policy by not mitigating staffing gaps or collecting and assessing firefighter data. The Post stresses if it needs more manpower, it has to, quote, robust partnerships and mutual aid agreements with surrounding fire departments. Well, Hawaii Governor Josh Green has signed an agreement with U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll to set up a framework for negotiations over military land leases in the Aloha State. So under the agreement, the military will consider options to return land to Hawaii, explore ways to clean up unexploded ordnance, and discuss support for housing, infrastructure, and energy development. The list also includes recognizing Hawaii's role in national security. Governor Green and Secretary Driscoll say they anticipate working toward a memorandum of understanding. Well, the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, is calling for accountability and justice following the murder of U.S. Navy culinary specialist Angelina Resendez in a series of sexual assaults allegedly committed by culinary specialist Jeremiah Copeland. LULAC is urging families to reconsider allowing their daughters to enlist in the Navy until their safety is assured. Resendez's mother has been a vocal advocate for change Navy-wide.
This needs to be the last. No one should have to go through this. And if
if all I ever do is make my daughter the last woman that's a victim to this type of violence in the military, then then we win. Then that's the goal. That's all we want, is just for this to end.
Copeland faces multiple charges, including murder, rape, or sexual assault, sexual misconduct, and obstruction of justice.
Prosecutors have linked him to the murder of Resendez, the sexual assault of 2 other sailors, the assault of a civilian in Norfolk, Virginia, and the abuse of a domestic partner. Well, the family of a World War II veteran who was injured during the attack on Pearl Harbor is returning a piece of him to the Navy, a bullet that was lodged in his heart.
Dean Darrow was blown off the USS West Virginia during the attack, but he survived. Months later, after complaining of chest pains, it was discovered he had a silver bullet lodged in his heart.
Doctors didn't give him long to live, but were able to extract the bullet from him. Darrow once again defied the odds and was able to live a full life before passing away at age 75. His wife kept the bullet that nearly killed her husband with her, but years later felt that the best place for it was to return it back to where it originally came from.
I would rather have the people of Pearl Harbor know what the bullet was like, how big it was, and how well he got over it. When he took the bullet out, it left a big cavity in his heart, and I was able to fill that cavity with my love.
While she no longer has the bullet in her possession, what she does have is something that is everlasting, a love for her late husband that will never fade away.
Forecast with meteorologist Ulysses Garcia.
And we're tracking just some light rain showers, but like I mentioned before, some of these, don't be surprised if some of these are just a few sprinkles, or even some of these actually just evaporate before hitting the ground. So there is a chance that some of this might even be virga, but if not, you might just encounter just a few very light rain showers pushing through, but nothing really of a big concern here going out the door. Looking at your Duncan Regional Hospital tower cam, really quiet conditions here. So we're dealing for the most part, partly to mostly cloudy skies, maybe some spots even with some overcast conditions. Calm winds off towards the north, very light winds for the most part, around 5 miles an hour on average from Childress to Vernon. You can see multiple wind directions from either the northeast, northwest, or even out of the south. Looking at the visibilities here, a little bit more of a factor down towards Graham at 4 miles, everybody else at 10. So we have a little bit of that shortwave disturbance pushing through, just bringing some spotty showers and just sprinkles in general. That's pushing off towards the north. We'll see that cloud cover gradually fade here as we go throughout today. We'll have that sunshine this afternoon, mostly clear skies for tonight, and more sunshine on the way as we go into your Wednesday. For your PT forecast at Fort Sill, we'll keep things into those middle 60s here before warming things up. And as we look at the 7-day forecast, we are going to see those temperatures warming up into the lower 90s as we start flipping the calendar over into October. Also a breezy weekend ahead under mostly sunny skies.
Thanks for watching Good Morning Fort Sill.